I'm Dawn Saunders and welcome to the Sarah O'Connell Show.
Welcome to the Sarah O'Connell Show.
Your French, welcome to the Sarah O'Connell Show. You are, of course, a comedy legend. You're an author and a part-time vicar as well. How are you today?
Yes, I'm pretty good, actually. Yeah, I am really good. It feels odd to be called a legend. That's a strange thing. I feel like that's showing off.
A mythical person.
Yeah, it feels like somebody who should be dredged up from the bottom of the ocean, like when people call you a national treasure. And that makes me think of treasure chests, and it makes me think of old wrecks at the bottom of the sea, which is frankly more what I feel like. Thank you very much.
All you need to know is it's very flattering.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I'll take that. Yeah, take that.
Okay, great. You previously went through your entire life in about 300 million minutes. I'm going to attempt to do it in about 40. I'm going to cheat a little bit and skip the first 4 years because they're not that well documented, because you're mostly just laying down and stuff. So when you were 4, you moved around a lot. Your dad was in the RAF, you lived in Cyprus, and you also one day had a visit from the Queen Mother who came to your house, and you've described it as the scariest experience of your life.
I think it was because, my dad was in the RAF, and obviously we moved around a lot, as you say, and we were my dad was never commissioned as an officer. We were on the other end of the camp. We were on the oikie end of the camp. Jennifer Saunders, by the way, was completely the opposite. Her family were officer quality. So she was on the top end of any camp that she was on with detached houses. We were in the camp end. Anyway, the campy camp end.
It's the best end to be in.
Yeah, exactly. And there was this one time when we were in Yorkshire, and every camp looked like every other camp. Sometimes you would stay there for 6 months, sometimes for 3, sometimes for 2 years. And all the houses were the same with the G-plan furniture in every single one. And we were on this camp, and my dad was chosen as a good, reliable, civilized representative of the oik end of the camp for the Queen Mother to visit when she came to see us. Obviously, she only popped into us. She went mainly to visit the officers. But this was documented by the RAF archive people. And so I used it in my show because I thought nobody will believe me that this ever happened. But there it is, there's documentary evidence of it. And she came to our house, and it was very odd because, when you're 4, you do believe that the Queen, surely she's going to have a crown. Surely there's going to be unicorns, or she's going to be in a lovely Cinderella coach or something, but she wasn't. She did come on a helicopter, but I didn't see that part of it. And she came out of a big black car, and she walked up our garden path, and we'd all done, practiced our curtsying for ages, and we did very good curtsying, and then she smiled, and it was just so frightening because I looked up at her, and she's only very tiny, but I was even tinier, obviously. And she glowered down at me. One day she didn't glower, she smiled, but the smile was brown teeth, because the Queen Mother had brown teeth. Why? Were they wooden? Was she Elizabethan? I don't know. But she had brown teeth. And when you're little, brown teeth is scary. It's a witch. It's somebody evil and bad and shouldn't come in your house. So I did not want it to come in. Clung to my dad's leg like a sort of Randy Terrier, and that was it. Didn't say anything to her, refused to speak to the Queen Mother.
I can imagine that wooden teeth are really high maintenance, because instead of toothpaste, you have to have furniture polish.
Yes, exactly. Wooden teeth, very, very difficult. I did hear that she, you hear this on the grapevine, don't you, in royal circles. She was a big rusk sucker. Do you know what I mean by a rusk, Sarah?
Well, I know Farley's rusk. I know of rusk. Explain it to me, Dawn.
Farley's rusk, exactly that. And in fact, a lot of my family are from Plymouth, and that's where the Farley's rusk factory was. It just means that really your teeth aren't up to it. They only should really be fed to babies who haven't got any teeth, but old people have them as well, and mushed down a bit like Weetabix. It's a bit like that. So I know that she was a big fan of rusks, and I think maybe that's because she didn't have the proper teeth. I don't know. I know nothing about the royal family's dental setup. except for that hers were not good.
I mean, any royal circles that I'm aware of are the 1p and the 2p, and if I'm lucky, a pound coin.
Yeah, exactly. And they're smiling beautifully on the coins, and you don't have to be scared of them as a 4-year-old. But she did have tea.
So you, of course, are an incredible actress and comedian, but when you were growing up, what did you aspire to be? What did you imagine yourself being when you were older?
Oh, air hostess, of course, the most glamorous thing ever possible.
Wow.
That's what I wanted to do. And my dad, my dad was very short. We're all short in our family. And so my mum used to have to take his trousers up always. And she would cut the bottom part of, bottom loop of his trousers off to shorten them. And that I would take that little loop and put it on my head like that. And I had a little badge, little fly me now kind of badge. And I used to pretend to be, an air hostess, a bit like a Thunderbirds kind of air hostess. And that was really all I ever wanted to be. And then I realized that it probably wasn't as glamorous as I thought it was going to be. Plus it meant flying, which isn't my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Hadn't put that together stupidly. So yeah, didn't ever get to be an air hostess. And really, I think my thing was that when I went to school, I had a massive crush on my drama teacher, who I thought spoke beautifully and had read plays and was so cultured and funny. And she was just the person I absolutely adored. So I just wanted to be her. I didn't want to wear her skin, don't get me wrong, I'm not a pervert. But I just wanted to be Christine Abbott, my darling drama teacher. And she had trained at Central. So that was it. I was just focused on that. I thought, well, I'll go there and I'll be a drama teacher. And indeed, that's what happened.
It's very true. And you now are the most successful drama teacher in the world. And so you studied drama and you met Jennifer Saunders and you formed your famous double act known the world over, the Menopause Sisters.
Yeah, so you've done your research, Sarah. Yes, we did. Well, we shared a flat together when we were at drama school. And mainly we came up with these two characters just to amuse ourselves, who were sort of punks. We had two different sets of characters we were playing. One was the Menopazzi sisters,
right,
who were like an Italian circus family, which meant that we would pretend to juggle balls, stand on balls, balance on balls, and we'd put our leotards on with the back to front with nipple tassels, like stupid stuff, to make each other laugh, really. And the others were the Menopause sisters, who were punks, who just looked a bit angry, had a bit of slightly bleached hair and a bit of Mohican, purple Mohicans. And we used to, adore Chrissy Hind and go on the tube and just look at people slightly aggressively and then giggle about it all the way home. We weren't proper punks at all. We liked a bit of punk music, but that was it. Those were the characters that we came up with. It wasn't that imaginative, to be honest.
Now, in 1979, the Comedy Store in London opened and they held open auditions to find comedians, and they'd have people perform on stage for 5 minutes and then they'd hit that gong to get people off stage again. Do you remember your first performance there, and did you have to audition in that way?
No. I mean, the weird thing was it was the comic strip that we saw the advert for. And the comic strip was a club where you didn't have the gong. But everybody was also doing the Comedy Store, which had the gong at the same time. And it was a bit like that was your initiation. You had to do both. Or you had to certainly do the Comedy Store in order to earn your wings to get on stage at the comic strip. So we didn't really have an act, but we invented 5 minutes of really dreadful. Oh, it was dreadful. And we went on stage at the Comedy Store, which was in a strip club. I mean, and you would go up into the Nell Gwyn strip club in Soho, and it finished being a strip club at sort of midnight, and then the Comedy Store would start. And sometimes it was still the same audience from the strip club, and there weren't that many women getting up on stage. And when Jennifer and I did, people would ask us to take our tops off. That there were requests from the audience for that, and I think they were just the drunken remainders of the strip club audience. So there were odd moments like that, and we very often were gonged off. And I used to go into slightly teacher mode. Jennifer has reminded me of this, because I used to be annoyed that people weren't concentrating properly. So halfway through some very dire comedy routine, which they had every right not to concentrate on, when the level of distraction from the audience was increasing, you know, much more tinkling, much more chatting, I just clapped my hands and I was saying, everybody, now, what are you doing? Everyone, eyes on me, everyone looking this way. This is where the comedy is happening, and shush now and listen, and on we go. And that's how I would absolutely kill the night. But I mean, by kill, I don't mean kill good. I mean, kill, literally murder the atmosphere so that it was crap for us to perform anything in.
It must have been very confusing for audiences that were there multiple days in a row, because then they'd then be saying the strippers are really bad at comedy and they weren't funny at all.
Really, what we should have done is get our tits out. That would have been the funniest thing of all. We should have done that, and then continued to do the Menopathy sisters and done the twirling with the actual bosoms. That would have been, oh God, why didn't we think of that? That would have been genuinely hilarious and quite groundbreaking.
It would. So I'm thinking of getting into stand-up comedy myself. Have you got any tips for anyone that wants to get into comedy?
Face the front.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Make sure you've got clean pants on. Always do that anyway. Do that anyway.
Clean pants, got it. Right.
Blow your nose.
Not somebody else's.
Written some jokes. That's the one. That's quite a good tip.
Okay.
I think the only way that you can do comedy is by doing comedy. That's all I can say. Is just you have to keep doing it. You have to get up and be dire for quite a long time until you work out what your actual voice is and who you are on stage. And you invent a person called Sarah O'Connell or whatever, Binky or Twinkle or Mrs. O or whatever you want to call yourself. And you will eventually find your voice. But honestly, I'm no good at the tips because I'm still trying to work it out myself.
You're doing very well. Now,
Thanks.
one thing I've wondered since the early 1980s is, well, not since then, because I didn't know the next bit, but you had a cameo appearance in The Young Ones and you played a religious lady. And I've noticed that she looks very similar to Geraldine in The Vicar of Dibley. So I was just wondering, are they in any way related?
Absolutely not. But thank you for asking. No, nothing to do with it. That the good old Young Ones boys wrote a Jehovah's Witness for me to play. I think that's what you mean. And I was in the Young Ones a couple of times. I was an Easter Bunny, and I was an Easter Bunny in Vicar. There was that connection. But no, and in fact, Sarah, I don't think they did look alike.
You don't?
They didn't look alike. The lady in the Young Ones was all very pulled up and tweedy top, whereas Geraldine was a babe with a bob cut.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Although you did have similar heads.
Yeah, that's true. The head, yeah, I used my own head for it because it's too much of a pain in the ass.
That's the bit I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Although having seen you today, any time in the future, I'd quite happily swap with yours. Yours is much younger. Yeah. Look what I'm doing, Sarah. I'm growing out my hair. I'm growing in all my grass. Yeah, but I don't like this bit anymore. This is all coming off. In fact, today.
Is it?
Today. These bits are, which now I just keep as these strange little horny toad moments on the top because I just can't bear it anymore. I just want it all chopped off. I want to miraculously look a little bit like Judi Dench, and then I want it to grow long and be my old bob, but grey. And I'd like that to happen in the next week, please. Please organise that for me. Thank you.
It done. I could probably do it on Uber Eats or phone up Argos or something. I don't know the logistics of it, but I'll get it done.
Thanks.
Now, in the 80s, I loved the TV show Girls on Top. In fact, I have the DVD over there. And you shared a flat with Trace Ullman and Ruby Rax and Jennifer Saunders. And you shared a flat with Jennifer Saunders in real life too. Was any of the storylines or situations that happen based on real life in any capacity?
Oh, goodness. No, I suppose a little tiny inkling of the real us was in the characters, but only a tiny one. I mean, I was quite a strident feminist, you know, and I was a little bit camouflage jacket and lots of going on marches and all of that when I was a student. very quickly sort of moved. I'm still a feminist, but I, very quickly gave up the actual physical appearances or anything, but just because of effort it took. So lazy, very lazy feminist, really furious on my own couch at home. That's the genuine me. But yeah, I suppose I took a little bit of that from Amanda, and I can be a bit bossy. I think there was a bit of that. And Jennifer definitely has got that character. What was her character called? Jennifer. She was called Jennifer Marsh. That's right. I was thinking, what was her character? Was it called the same name? There is that element, a tiny element of that in her, slightly, ooh, don't want to do anything. I mean, Jennifer's fantastically bright, sharp person, of course, but she's got a slob and a just a girl from Cheshire living in her. And Ruby Wax definitely has a talkative American somewhere, not so deep inside her. So yeah, I suppose they were based a little bit on stuff, and there was jokes about putting a marker on the milk to make sure that who had their rations and nobody was nicking somebody else's stuff. There was a bit of that going on, but other than that, we made it up from our brains.
Very clever. So in 1987 you launched French and Saunders, which ran for 6 series. Have you got a favourite sketch or movie parody that you did over those years?
Well, of course, you see, the things I remember are the things we had the most fun filming. So, for instance, we filmed a sketch with Stephanie Beacham, where we pretended to be the illegitimate daughters of Elvis Presley. On the one occasion that we found out that Elvis Presley had, I think his plane had touched down in somewhere like, I mean, you'll have to check this out, I can't remember, it's somewhere like Nottingham or something, or Birmingham or something like that, when he was younger. So we pretended that, he'd met this lady in the 10 minutes, his plane had touched down, and we were the illegitimate children of the two of them. And Stephanie Beacham was all dolled up to look like, Lisa Presley, and is it Lisa, whoever the one was he married, and then Jennifer and I just looked like Elvis's. But there was something about the way we looked, and being with Stephanie, who was being very professional, that we just couldn't stop giggling. And honestly, it was like, it was on a Friday and time was running out and the crew were tired and they needed to get home to their families. And we just couldn't film it. We just laughed so much. And Stephanie, who thought this was funny that we were laughing for the first couple of hours, was now also like, let's get it done, shall we? And that made it worse. That made it tense. And so when you're tense, you really, the temptation to make each other laugh more. And literally the breathing of Jennifer next to me was making me laugh. And it takes on another life. The silly corpsing is about corpsing then. It's not even about the actual sketch. So when I see that sketch, I remember that glorious day where lots of weeing, because it was so funny, was going on. And the same happened. God, there was quite a lot of weeing, which is bad. There was another time when we did a take of the piano, and and I had to be buried in the sand. I can't even remember where we shot it, somewhere a bit ugly. And I was buried in the sand, and Jennifer was doing her impression, and just making me laugh so much that honestly we had to constantly go back for new pants, which is why I'm saying always have clean pants and a spare pair of clean pants in your handbag.
Incredible advice. Now, in 1991, you starred in Murder Most Horrid. Now, murder mysteries have had a renaissance at the moment. They're very popular. Have you considered ever reviving the show, either for a one-off episode or a new series?
No, I sort of think when things are gone, they're sort of gone, really. I find it even difficult when Richard Curtis bullies us into making more Vicar of Dibleys now that they've gone. But we do it usually for comic relief. I mean, we definitely did lockdown, and I'm glad we did that. But, we're always being asked to sort of revive things. And I sometimes think that when they've happened. And when you go back to it, it's somehow not quite as good, or you feel a bit sad that it wasn't quite as good. Occasionally it can work if you've got a great idea. But haven't had any great ideas. So it's sort of pointless to revive anything unless I feel like we get some mileage out of it.
Which brings us on very nicely to the Vicar of Dibley. Now, rumour has it you originally wanted to play Alice because you felt that the vicar wasn't flawed enough as a character.
Well, I just didn't think it was funny enough. I could see how every other character was funny. Everybody had their sort of set jokes. And Alice, of course, was very kind of other and not the brightest button, but very kind of engaged in her own reality. And I just thought, oh, I love that character. But, you know, I was A, a bit too old to play it, really. And B, we'd already decided who should and whatever. It was the wrong thing. And Richard, that wasn't the point. Richard wanted me to play the main character. But I knew that she was kind of the fulcrum. I knew she was the center of it. But I didn't want to play somebody so goody two-shoes. And I just said she needs more flaws and she needs to be a bit vain or greedy or lusty or something. So things that can trip her up. And he wrote more of that, which was great. Plus, actually, sometimes the delight is in reacting to other people. If you're in a group like that, where everybody's quite extreme and everybody's very funny, it is quite funny to be the person at the center of it, just being with the mad people and witnessing them all be bonkers, really. So it's a job I'm glad I didn't turn down. And maybe you know, but Richard did threaten me because I was taking a while to make this decision. It was a long time ago, and you know, I was part of working with Jennifer in the comic strip, and it felt very mainstream and a bit not as edgy as stuff that we were doing. And I thought, am I selling out a bit? This is a bit cozy. I'm not sure that this is for me. Stupid decisions, really. And then I was taking far too long to decide, and he said, well, these are the other people that are available. And he showed me a list of really good actors. And he said, you know, really, if you don't decide soon, we will have to move on. And that was it. You know, it's like any actor, when you're told the job that you didn't particularly want is being taken away from you, you suddenly become massively greedy and insecure and grab it.
I had to fight to get this show.
This is amazing what you've done with this show.
Thank you very much.
I mean, would you take it onto terrestrial telly? Not that you need to, actually. Not that you need to, but
if I was asked. I've also considered doing a live version of it on stage and interview people with an audience.
Yeah, great.
Option.
Yeah. Well, good for you. You seem to have got amazing kind of names on here, and you're.
I had people called Steve. I had people called Tiffany on here. Lovely names.
Had anyone from your family?
I had someone who shares the name with me, who I refer to as my cousin Jerry, who is Jerry O'Connell, who is a famous actor in America. He did a message for my show once, so that's kind of the closest I've had to it so far.
Yeah, okay. That's insider trading, as we call it.
And I also consider all of my guests my family anyway.
Yeah, okay. Oh, so we're family now. Are we sisters or cousins, or am I your mother, or what?
All of it.
Okay, all of it. Oh,
yeah.
No. Buy you so many presents now at Christmas.
My birthday is 2 days before Christmas, so.
Okay. So birthday and Christmas. Okay. Have you got a saint's day at all? Anything like that? Are you named for a saint?
I don't know. I've not looked.
You've not looked?
Probably.
You got a middle name?
I got middle name, Marie.
So you're named for Mary, are you?
Yes.
Mary, Mother of God. Isn't that you? Isn't that who you're named for?
Well, it's actually my mum's middle name as well, so I don't know. If you go back 2,000 years, probably.
Yeah, okay. Well, because if I was you, I'd claim that Saint's Day as well, or I'd claim that as another day that needs celebrating with presents.
I think so.
Yeah.
So Vicar of Dibley recently returned for some lockdown specials. Was there an idea to do that before the pandemic happened, or was it something that came about as a result of it?
No, it was as a result of it. There's always talk of Christmas specials for Vicar. It always sort of surfaces somewhere in the summer, as you know, BBC's approach Richard or whoever, and there's always a bit of a talk of it, and we haven't really wanted to do it. And also, you know, we've lost so many of our cast now.
Yeah.
We could honestly do an original episode of Vicar anymore anyway, and I wouldn't want to. And that's why this was perfect, because to do lockdown episodes, we did one for comic relief, and then Richard said to me, well, you know, what can we do for comic relief? And I said, well, look, what would Geraldine be doing? She'd be ministering to her congregation, but from home, like this, on Zoom. She'd be putting out a weekly thing, or she'd be, you know, somehow doing that. She'd probably have to physically go and see people, especially if they were poorly. But this is what she'd mainly be doing. So she'd be thinking up things to keep people's peckers up. And there'd be funny stuff that she could report in a kind of parish newsletter. So that's what we did for Comic Relief. And it was so, and I filmed it in my den at the back of my house. And my husband set up the lighting with his camping torches. And I tried to make it look as much like the old vicarage that we had in the actual series as I could. And we seem to have got away with that. And because that worked well, then the BBC asked us to film several to go over the Christmas period. And that's when we made the decision that somewhere in there, although it could be funny, we would also try to cheer people up a bit from a really shitty, awful year. And we would tackle the big one, which was to talk about people that weren't here anymore. And we couldn't do it for every single member of the cast. It would just look weird in the Dibley world. It would look strange, but it was wrong not to acknowledge that we had lost Alice Tinker. But of course, and of course, making it was just awful because, you know, yes, we've lost Alice Tinker, but we've lost Emma Chambers, more importantly, you know. So that was, and it was the first time that Richard, and she's so beloved of Richard and I, such a beloved friend. So he wrote a very touching thing, and it was, I think we had 7 or 8 takes before we could get it without me just being a blubbing wreck. But anyway, I'm really glad we did that, although that wasn't quite cheering people up, but it was addressing something important in a time when lots of people in this country were losing family members. So.
It was, and there were lovely episodes, and they were kind of like just getting a hug when you needed one. And thank you for doing that.
Yeah, God, my total pleasure. And that was the last time I had the black hair. And that was, once I'd done that, because I was dyeing my hair during the, like I always do, during the lockdown. And I thought, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, but I need to do it while I do Vicar. And then after that, I will be done with it and grow it all out.
Well, whereas my hair is naturally bleach out of a bottle colour that I did myself.
I know, but it's like, I'm going to be 64 this year. So I just sort of think there's a moment that comes where if you dye your hair a very radical other colour, mine have got darker and darker for some reason, just does not match your face anymore. It's like mutton. And I just thought, my mum went grey in her 20s just naturally. And I thought, well, why not? Let's just do it and see. If I don't like it, I'll dye it again, or I'll dye it some other colour. But I'm giving it a go. But bloody hell, it takes forever to do. Forever. Anyway, it's just hair. It's just some dead stuff growing out of the top of your head. It shouldn't matter how much as it does. How much do you think we spend on hair in a woman's lifetime? How much do you think?
Well, I used to spend a horrific amount, and since the pandemic, I spent about £14. And I've worked out I was giving them a lot of money that I don't necessarily need to.
Lots of hairdressers haven't had quite the footfall back that they have before, but there also have been major disasters where you realise they do have some skills, actually, especially when it comes to colouring.
My hair's fine in certain lighting, like the cinema, for example.
Yeah.
Now, I'd love you to dish the dirt. You've obviously snogged a lot of celebrities. Who's your favourite?
Oh, my God. Oh, the funny thing about it is that, all of them, it's been under sufferance for them. They're quite, I'm sure they're quite embarrassed about it mostly. If I ever see Hugh Grant, he kind of looks away in shame. But that raised £1 million, that snog. £1 million, we snogged all the way through the news. So we started it before the news. We were still doing it after the news. Obviously, we did talk to each other a bit during it, but we kept the lip contact. There've been a lot, actually. Lucky me. And there was one occasion where Jennifer and I, for Comic Relief, did a serial snog. This was back in the day when you could snog other people. God, that was pre-pandemic, wasn't it? When you were having to put one's lips, you didn't really mind, even if it was a slightly dodgy person. You thought, oh well. We did a joke where there was a line of boys, and some of them were from boy bands and whatever, any boys we could find that were appearing in the studio on that Comic Relief night. And there was a joke about a cat's bottom. Jennifer had a cat does this make any sense? Jennifer had a cat in her arms, and I was blindfolded, and I was supposed to kiss boy after boy after boy, right? And then I was going to choose which boy had been the best boy, and she would tell me. But what she showed the cat, real cat, to the camera. Then we, sleight of hand, changed that cat for a stuffed cat that looked just like the real cat. Everybody, no cats were harmed in the making of this joke. And then she lifted the cat's tail up, and I kissed the cat's bum a couple of times. Do you know, that nearly broke the phones with complaints on Comic Relief Night. Richard Kay said, stop doing that joke. More people are calling in to complain than to donate. Stop it. Anyway, and also people were complaining about cruelty to the cat. I'm sorry. I'm kissing a cat's bottom. How is that cruel? It's rather nice, isn't it? If I was that cat, surely you'd think, hey, I've been on telly, I've had my bum kissed.
It's probably quite refreshing under those studio lights. It's quite hot, isn't it?
What's the harm? But
Exactly.
people are calling up about cruelty to animals. Anyway, nobody's worrying about my face. And they were all mistaking a fake cat for a real cat. Anyway, in that lineup, when I did not actually kiss a cat's bottom, but I did kiss quite a lot of boys, there was one boy whose lips were just so soft. And, you know, there's just like, oh, God. And I've got a blindfold on. It's all gone a bit 50 Shades. And I said to Jennifer, you know, whoever it was the fourth one or whatever it was. And that was Jamie Theakston.
Oh.
That's who it was. You know who I mean? Jamie Theakston.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
If you ever get the chance to kiss Jamie Theakston on the lips, take that opportunity because it's worth it. Good kisser. Oh.
I've noticed. So Jamie Theakston and wear pants. Got it.
Yeah.
Writing copious notes during this interview. Now, Dawn, you've been in some incredible music videos over the year. You're in Help for Bananarama. In 1997, you teamed up with the Spice Girls. Tell me this. Do you still remember the dance moves, and will the Sugar Lumps ever get back together?
Don't remember the dance moves. I just remember walking forward and doing quite a lot of that. But I was posh, so she did great, you know, great legs, great walking mainly. Sugar Lumps will never get back together. I'm pretty sure none of us can actually. We're all old people who got hunchbacks and arthritic knees now. So, you know, no, that will never happen again. It was a moment in time, and we need to celebrate it for the frightening display that it was. I'm still in touch with some of the Spiceys.
Yeah.
I love them very much. Yeah.
Got to love the Spice Girls. Now, I loved your memoir, Dear Fatty, where you wrote letters to lots of different people. Have you considered writing a follow-up for the bits you've been doing since?
Well, that's very interesting that you would say that, because I have just agreed to 2 more books with Penguin, who are my publishers. I wrote Dear Fatty, and then I've written 4 novels. And I've written another book that is a non-fiction book called Me, You, A Diary, which is an interactive diary, and I loved writing that. But in these next 2 books that I'm going to write, the last one will be a novel, and I know what that's going to be. But the first one is going to be a book of letters again. So I am going to write letters. It's not really going to be a memoir, but it's going to be me writing to all the things that I value or dislike. It's like really a chance for me to write some sort of comedy essays, if you like. I'm not really selling it, am I?
Well, you are. I've already pre-ordered
a book of essays, but anyway, I think the letter writing is a good way to do it. I knew that was the right way for me to write my autobiography, because then I could write to people that I love. You know, I could write to my dad, and I could write to my mum, and I could write to Jennifer. And it's a bit like the reader is getting a little inside peek at a personal relationship, if you like. But I want to write to, you know, I might write to my dog, or I might write a letter to Cornwall, or I might write a letter to being ordinary, you know, or, you know, things like that. I haven't quite worked it out yet, but that's what I'm going to do, a book of letters next.
It sounds like a lot of fun, and I can't wait to read it. Now, here's the question that I ask every guest on the Sarah O'Connell show. Can you tell me a fun fact about you, something we may not know? It can be a hobby, a party trick, something like that.
Well, I've only got one party trick, and I have done it before, and I've got a feeling it's not that impressive, but I will show you. But I'm aware it's weak. It's on the medium to light when it comes to interest value, and it is this, right? Can you see me? Yes. It's not that clever, is it, really?
I think it's quite impressive.
It's moving one eye at a time, which I've been able to do since a child, and some of my family thought I was possessed when I did it when I was a child in the pram. But there's not much else really that's secret about me. I'm really horribly, I'm quite shallow, I think. I haven't got much of a side to me. I can be a bit grumpy. I can be intolerant. I get less tolerant as I get older. That's quite, it's not a very interesting fact though. I wish I could tell you that I've shot a kitten in the head or something, but I haven't.
Well, you're more likely to kiss them, aren't you?
Yeah, more likely to kiss them. I do love kissing. I really love kissing. I love it too much, really. I wish it wasn't really against the law to kiss other people. You know, I'd like to. I mean, I'm married and I'm very happily married and I love kissing my husband. But, you know, I'm used to kissing him now. I'm quite like to keep on kissing other people, but you're not really allowed to. The good thing about acting is you can, in acting, and especially if you've written it, you can write, you know, if it's an idea of yours, you can write, you know, you can make sure you cast somebody that you'd like to kiss. And I have nearly always done that, always made sure the person that's playing my husband or what love interest or whatever is somebody would like to kiss. And then the day comes when it's written, it's in the script, you're helpless. You have to do it. You've been told to. It's your job. It's professional. And then you get to kiss lovely people and pretend you really do love them, so you can really properly kiss them. And you can afterwards say, oh, sorry about that, I got a bit carried away. Carried away, or did you plan it for 2 weeks and have you been so excited about it? Yes, you have.
And then when you're watching it back at home, people notice that it's your real life milkman that playing your husband. You're like, oh no, he's actually an actor as well.
Yes, I have not tried that, but I have tried it with really lovely actors or funny actors or people that I just fancy the pants off. Pants on. I fancy the pants on them, not the pants. Yeah.
Now, you were also recently a guest judge in RuPaul's Drag Race UK. Can you tell me, if you had a drag name, what would it be?
Oh, do you know, I really wish I had one and I can't come up with one, and I really should do that. And I vowed to ask Ru to christen me when I went there, and I totally forgot to ask. I can't believe I missed that opportunity. Grr. How could I have done that? You know, French letters, madam, something. Don't know, haven't got one, but I will let you know as soon as I can think of one. And that is dreadful that I haven't got one. Why haven't I got a drag name? I should have one. I love drag so much. And, you know, the reruns of all the RuPauls and the ones that were current at the time were what got us through lockdown. A lot of it. My daughter and my stepdaughter and I would put face masks on, get cakes lined up, get the cocktails out, and sometimes wear a feather boa, and we would go in a little back room and watch RuPaul, and it just cheered us up. I love it. I think it's such an art form. It's such a peacocking, lovely, bright, funny, and touching thing. Are you a fan of Drag Race?
Yeah, so I've interviewed some people from the show, Courtney Act, Jinx Monsoon and Trixie Mattel and several others as well. So yeah, I watch it mostly when I'm going to interview someone, but because of that, I watched the entire season.
Okay. It's such a treat. I mean, they behave appallingly sometimes, and some of it goes very wrong. And it's very, you know, it's a TV show, so it's edited. And I'd love to see lots of the bits that aren't edited. But when I did it in the last season, of course, they asked me on when they were getting them to do a bit of comedy, as if people can do comedy easily. I mean, you know, that is it's such a particular skill. Although if you're a drag queen, you're required to host things and you do have to have a bit of something about you. So it was really interesting because I'd come into it, they'd already done lots of weeks. And of course, the judges knew everybody and I didn't know anyone at all there. But I was so lucky that they had already, it was already, I think there were only 7 of them remaining, 6 or 7. And to see Lawrence Chaney do his comedy, her comedy, their comedy, and Tia, and, you know, and to see Bimini, you know, they were hilarious. And I thought, yeah, actually, these guys put the effort in and they've got a natural ability. And Lawrence is one of the funniest people I've ever met. And my heart completely went out to him, completely. And then he told me that he'd been to see my show in London and stuff like that. And I thought, oh, yeah, you're my kind of person. I would spend an evening with you happily. I'd spend a lot of friendship with you happily. Do try and get Lawrence on your show, Sarah.
I will. Thank you very much for the recommendation.
Yeah.
So you're going to be starring in the upcoming Kenneth Branagh movie Death on the Nile, where you play Mrs. Bowers. Is there anything you can tell us about it?
Well, this is bizarre because Jennifer and I don't operate in this world of great big blockbuster films ever, really. I mean, I've done little bits in big films and always been amazed by the process of it. I know that I'm a sort of incomer. I'm a cameo sort of person in something like that. And it was wonderful to be this age and play a character with Jennifer. I mean, characters that Betty Davis and Maggie Smith played previously. Yeah. I mean, it's for sort of fairly big shoes to walk in, although this was a very different version of it. But to be asked by Ken Branagh, who I've just, I've got a proper crush on in every way, in all the good ways, in the like to kiss you way, and in the, haven't you got a brilliant brain, and you're very clever at directing, and you're a great actor, and I'd like to be somewhere in your orbit. Just really delighted that he's so straight up and great. I'm just flattered to be asked, really. But what we were doing was walking onto the set of a proper great big blockbuster where, the things that impress me are not just the set, because they built a huge life-size steamship, and it was all CGI and bizarre and amazing. Not just that, not just standing next to Gal Gadot, who's an extraordinary physical specimen of a woman. Not just the amazing Annette Bening and Sophie Okonedo and amazing actors, not just all of that, slightly intimidating and whatever. But the things for me are things like, you look over there and you say, oh God, right next to the set, there's an actual coffee shop. They've brought a sort of coffee truck here. So you're allowed to, anytime you like, you're allowed to say, oh, could I have not just like a coffee, but, out of an urn, a proper, like a Costa kind of coffee. And Sophie Okonedo, who's very cultured, said to me, have you tried a cortado? Do you know what that is? It's like just a little coffee, but quite frothy. It's probably the same as something else, but a small version. I said, no, I don't know what that is. So I had one and that's it. I had maybe 4 or 5 of those a day. And inside me, I was thinking, I'm getting these free. I'm getting them free. People are giving me free frothy coffee. So I have to say I've left that set with that as my main thrill. Never mind all the amazing actors, never mind the amazing set and the really great directing and how glamorous it all was and how extraordinary to be making it. The free coffee that was such good quality was tip top as far as I was concerned, tip top.
Well, that's made me want to get into acting just for the coffee.
yeah, exactly.
Makes it all worthwhile. You've voiced several animated characters over the years, including a character in Coraline, a movie that I loved, a really delightful animated movie. You've got one coming out soon for Netflix called The Magician's Elephant.
How do you know about that?
I know, right?
Yeah, clever. Yes. Oh my God. I mean, I to tell you about it, I need to be more equipped with all the right names, like who the writer is and who the director is and stuff like that. But I've been going into a sound studio in Plymouth called Fresh Air, which is run by some friends of mine. And if I have to do any voiceovers or anything, I do that rather than come up to London unless I'm in London. But yes, so I've been going into Fresh Air in Plymouth doing it. I think I've done 3 sessions now where we're like this on Zoom, joined up to LA and Germany and whatever. There's lots of top knobby people listening in. And it's the most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story. Beautiful. Oh, it's just about, of course, it's about a boy's fear and his rejection and his separation from his sister. And it's like those proper old-fashioned fairy tales, but with a bit of edge. It's quite sad and then it's very redemptive. And I'm just delighted to be in it. And of course, they send you a picture of your character. And then you try to make your voice fit that character. And then you realize actually it needs to be more thoroughly you than you've ever done, because it's only your voice and it needs to be legions deep and truthful and authentic. So, you know, you go from funny little versions of you, or just trying a little accent, very unsuccessful, to pulling it all back to being the most you that you've ever been, which feels fraudulent, really, because that's almost your easiest voice. But that seems to be the secret with animation. And I'm absolutely loving it. I mean, when we did the Coraline one, of course, that was written by Neil Gaiman, who is a close friend of mine and who I love and admire very much. And of course, that was with Jennifer. And originally we were booked to play the opposite characters to the ones we ended up playing, mainly because of the physicality. You know, I was playing the little fat one and Jennifer was playing the tall, thin one. And we had the animated, the models in front of us when we were doing it. And again, that was a link up. I mean, this was pre-COVID, but that was a link up to LA and the directors and stuff. And then we finished it, and including songs and everything else. We did quite a lot of work on that. And then we got a phone call just saying, we've done something really stupid. You belong in the other character. The voices belong with the other characters. So we had to go back and redo it all as the other characters. And then it suddenly worked. Weird, isn't it? That's
incredible. I love that. It's a movie that I like to watch at Halloween, because it's a dark, but it's not a horror movie really. And it's fun to watch.
But it is scary, especially if you're a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the mum with the big eyes, and they're just going through a door to another whole, you know, parallel. That's Neil Gaiman's amazing brain, you know, amazing. And he has a penchant actually for the scary and the edgy, especially when it comes to kids. He's very good at that. And kids love a bit of horror, actually. I'll tell you what you should watch if you like Coraline. Is there on the DVD of Coraline, there's the kind of extras, and it shows you the making of it and how they built the sets to put the models on. And I was amazed at it. I mean, you know, they actually knitted little tiny jumpers for her and stuff. So they had to use tiny knitting needles to make the tiny jumpers, and the way they got the flowers to grow on the set and so on. You know, it's just beautiful. So much work.
Yeah, it's an incredible production. I have it on Blu-ray actually. As I said, yeah. I highly recommend people watch it if you haven't already.
Technically adept, aren't you, Sarah?
A little bit.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm really not. This is about as technical as I get, being able to look at you on a screen like this. I mean, COVID has been, because I don't own a computer. Well, I do own this tablet, but I don't have a proper big computer with a keyboard at all. I've never been taught how to use one. I'm that age where we didn't have them at school. And when they started to be a thing, Jennifer was on it in 2 seconds because she likes playing games, and that's why she was interested. But I have never, to my shame, never learned how to do it. And I'm miles behind. Unless it's massively easy, I just can't do it.
Yeah, well, there's probably tons of stuff I can't do either, but I've worked out the stuff I can do, which is talking to people, and that's it.
Yeah, good. Good for you.
Yeah. My skill is chatting, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
So can you tell me what else you've got planned for the rest of 2021, 2022 and beyond?
Well, all sorts is going on. I'm moving house. And so that's really taken over my life. And the house that I'm moving into has proven to be, you know, we were going to do a few little changes. And as we started to do them, we realized that the house is broken. So we've had to sort of mend it. So every bit of floor we took out, we found rot and things and more things. And so something that I thought was going to be 6 months is going to be over a year. So we're renting a different house. So I'm having a strange life where I'm living in a rented house and overseeing this big project of the new house that we're going to move into. So other work that I was going to do has sort of taken second place to this big project that has become our new home. It's exciting, but it's a bit frightening all at the same time. But anyway, so that's going on. And I am writing this new book of letters that I've mentioned to you. I'm also going to go back out on tour next year. And I'm going to do, the last tour I did was of 30 million minutes, which was about my life and it really, but I was trying to, with that tour, I was trying to say, you know, everything that's happened to me, good and bad, is kind of what's happened to everybody somewhere along the line. And it was just about a connection really with an audience. But what I didn't do was talk about career in any way, because I think that, you know, people know what my career is if they're coming to see show with me in it. And why would they be, it's boring to just go, and I did this, and then I did this, and then did that. But then I thought, oh, actually, there are some stories that go with moments in my career life. So I could illustrate the moments by telling you what happened just before, or telling you how it came about, or telling you what a complete idiot I was in imagining that I could do this, and then look how badly I did this, or whatever. It's where I am a complete twat, basically, on this tour. It's stories of how I've been a twat, to do with career things, illustrated by those moments, but me telling you, giving you the background. So I'm going to go out on tour. And I'm hoping, really hoping, that once everybody's back into theatres and we all feel confident and everything, I really, really want to get involved with Panto again. I've only done it once, and I did it at the Palladium, and I had, honestly, the best time ever. I've not wanted to do it my whole life, thinking, oh, Christmas is for family and home and da 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 da. But little did I know, if you could be in this gang at Christmas on stage at the Palladium, where you're walking through Carnaby Street to get to work, where it's so Christmassy, and where you're there with with Julian Clary and Nigel Hayes, and and huge amount of dancers and all the orchestra, and you create this little family. And you have little moments where you have a carol service in the dressing room and the most beautiful voices. And, it couldn't be more Christmassy. And I think we need it now. We need to be back in theatre. We need to be cheering up, and we need to be having really good crack. And that I'm hoping that I'll do that at the end of next year.
Oh, wonderful. London at Christmas is magical, and I think that'd be amazing.
It's the best. And it's the best. And the people who make those pantos, I went to see one to see if I wanted to do it there, and it's like proper, all the money is up there on the stage, amazing costume. I had 6 different costumes, 6 different crowns, people are flying away. I was flying on a dragon, the dragon came out over the audience. You think, this is amazing. And kids, you just see their faces lighting up. And, I love the fact that in Panto you can tell gags that are for the adults that kids don't get, thank God. Yeah, it's smut. I love that it's at lots of different levels. And anyway, I'm hoping that we'll all be in a position that we can do that again. Absolutely.
Now, can you settle something for me, please? Because this came up again the other day. You live in Cornwall. It is definitely jam first, isn't it?
Yes. Oh, yes. You can put cream first, but you're an idiot if you do, and I don't respect you. But that's your choice. If you want to be seen as a fool, you can put cream first. Some people have the ridiculous argument that the cream is the fat, is the butter. But I would say, if you want butter, have butter. Then put your jam, which is the spreading. Then put your cream, which is the dolloping. The cream is the crown. The cream is clotted. It's from Cornwall. It's what we're most proud of. So you want the most of it, and you put it on the top, and you make it tall. You're generous with it. So if you put it underneath the jam, there's a small amount. It must mean that you're ashamed of your cream, Devon. Just leave it. Yeah.
I'm going to bring this up every time this conversation comes up. This is definitive.
Oh yeah, this is it. I have had many arguments, mainly on Twitter, as you probably have witnessed. And sometimes there's a bit of a pile-on. James Corden is a fool, I'm afraid. He's in the cream first camp, and he's strident about it, but he's wrong. I have right on my side, so that I know that I can battle on, and I will die on that hill. I will die on that hill of cream.
Sounds delightful. Looking back, what would you say is your proudest moment? Obviously, you've now been on the Sarah O'Connell show as well, so you've got that to consider. But in your entire career, what is your proudest moment so far, would you say?
Gosh. Oh, gosh. Proudest moment. Proudest moment. Oh God, I don't even know if I can answer that. I was fairly touched and excited when Jennifer and I were given the BAFTA fellowship, even though I'm not great at award stuff and I didn't really even want to go, but Jennifer put me up against a wall and told me we were going and we were going to take it, because the last double act that had it was Morecambe and Wise, and she said, we're having this award. We missed out on lots because of your stupid principles, Dawn. And she's right. I'd been very high-handed about it all over the years. But she said, and the other thing you have to remember is if you get a BAFTA fellowship, it means it's a lifelong membership of BAFTA, and BAFTA is right near Piccadilly Circus, and they've got toilets.
That's very true.
As you get older, you know, and you're in the middle of town. So that swung it for me. It was the toilets that did it for me. But that was a night where we sort of stopped being so British and refusing to accept any accolades, and we did accept it. I mean, I found it excruciating in lots of ways, but I'm glad we did it. I'm glad we did it together. And you know, we have tattoos, Jennifer and I. We both have the same tattoo.
Really?
And which we got on the very last night of doing our double act. We were on tour in Auckland, in New Zealand, which is just an amazing place. And we knew we wouldn't be touring a double act again. I mean, you know, here I am saying that, and that was lots of years ago. And I'm done with that, done with the double act part of it. Not done with her. There's lots of things I'd love to do with her. But doing sketches on telly, I think we'd had our moment with it. Although she's trying to persuade me to do some more. But anyway, we just decided to have a celebration of that. And we went out for lunch. We did have a bit too much to drink, and we did have a show that night, which wasn't very professional. And, you know, we'd had one too many, and we were walking back. And I'd said to her, you know what, I can't give you earrings to celebrate, you know, 30 years of working together. You know, I can't, it doesn't seem right. We bought lots of presents for our crew and people, and we walked past a tattoo parlor, and she looked at me and I looked at her. I thought, oh, how can we do this? We haven't got enough time. But we, as I say, we'd had a glass of wine too many, so in we went. And I have a couple of stars here. They're quite badly done. If I ever did it again, which I won't, I would get them done better, but we did them in a hurry. So this is her and this is me. And then she had two on her ankle. So we are bound. We are comedy sisters bound together. And that was a bit of a proud moment as well, in as much as proud moment, I don't know, but touching, you know, where I just thought, yeah, we've worked together and loved each other for a long time, and we still do. We just finished doing a podcast together, our second series. Yeah, titting about, which I love doing, and that is the best, because we can sit there. We don't have to put makeup on. We don't have to turn up at anywhere else. It's just us, and you know, I absolutely love that. It's a chance to spend some time with her. She's my darling, so I love it.
And it's a lot of fun. And the second series is out now on Audible.
It is. Yes.
Now, Dawn French, my final question: have you got any messages for people watching the Sarah O'Connell Show and your fans around the world?
And my fan around the world. Hello to everyone watching the Sarah O'Connell Show, and my other fan who's somewhere around the world, according to Sarah. You should definitely watch her show. You should definitely subscribe to it. And you should enjoy your life and try not to be a cunt. Sorry, are you allowed bad language?
Yeah, you're allowed to say enjoy your life on the show. It's fine.
Okay. You could bleep that if you want to.
I'll keep the end bit though, because that's important.
Okay, yeah, good.
Dawn French, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute delight talking to you.
Oh, I've loved speaking to you, and I know we've been trying to do it for a while, and I'm really glad that we persevered and managed it. And maybe one day we'll meet in person, and when we do, and when lips are allowed, you watch. I'm coming at you.
Wow, that's very exciting. I look forward to it.
You're always welcome anytime you like, and really good luck with all of this, Sarah. You deserve every bit of success you have with all of it.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And thank you to everybody watching at home. Be sure to share, subscribe, give this video a big thumbs up, and leave lots of lovely comments. I'll see you all again soon for another episode of the Sarah O'Connell Show. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Now, F off, Sarah O'Connell. Get out of my life and let me retrieve the shreds of life I've got left when I'm not talking to you. So occasionally I am Dawn French. I'm the funny half of French and Saunders, and I've done the Sarah O'Connell show, and so should you if you can. And if you can't actually be on it, the least you could do is subscribe to it. All right, darling.
Take care. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, sweetheart. Bye.